want to talk about something that I noticed in my first few stop smoking clinics. When I was first doing stop smoking clinics, in the beginning, I didn't have, at least in my first clinic, a set agenda on how people should stop smoking. I was accidentally thrust into doing a stop smoking clinic that I was not planning on doing because I didn't know how to help people quit smoking. And I have a whole video covering that. This video, I want to focus on one specific issue that I noticed. In that first clinic, I had 7 people. 4 were going cold turkey. 3 were, I think they were attempting cold turkey, but they were smoking along the way. They weren't smoking a lot, but they were smoking. So the first 4 days of this clinic, it was interesting because they were all coming in and they were all complaining. They were all sounding miserable. And you couldn't tell who the people who were totally off cigarettes were in contrast to the people who were only smoking 2 or 3 cigarettes. There was no real difference that was discernible in those groups. Unless you asked, you would not know. By the 4th day of the clinic, then you could see something different happening. The people who had been totally off were doing well. They were feeling good. The people who were still kind of cheating along the way, they were still suffering. Well, when we did our next week's session, then it was real clear. The people who were totally off, man, they were positive. They were feeling good. They were noticing these improvements. The ones who were still smoking, even the small amount, they were still complaining. They were still feeling miserable. They really wanted to talk about this horrible reaction and how am I supposed to deal with this feeling now that the majority of the group wasn't having. And it was so obvious to me when I saw what happened. And by the next week, the 3 people who had been cheating along the way, they had all left. They were no longer. They didn't come back to the graduation session. The next few clinics I did, I basically told from day one, we're going to go cold turkey. But there were always a few people who came in who thought, no, that's too hard. They're going to try. They're going to try to go cold turkey, but they don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. And they were generally right in the sense that they kept their cigarettes. They would smoke when things got really bad. And the same thing would happen. In the first few days, they'd all blend together. But then by the second week, you would have this small contingency because now we were basically saying that that's cold turkey and everyone should be doing it. So there were a very small percentage of people who were still using or still smoking, but they had the same reaction. They were suffering, but everybody else was doing better. I thought for a while that if I let them keep coming, though, they would see. They would see the ones who were totally off doing well and how they would still be, cringeworthy by watching them, how they were suffering. And there was one thing that I actually kind of liked when they were there was the people who had gone cold turkey and were totally off, where they were detoxed. They would see the people in the corner kind of, again, suffering and realize, wow, I'm glad I did what I did. I'm glad I'm not where they're at. And I used to think that then it would work in reverse, that the people who were suffering and cringing and just, not feeling good would see the ones who had detoxed and see how good they were doing and think, oh man, I should be doing that. And then I would think, well, maybe they would then stop using. But it never worked that way. It just never did. What would happen was the ones who were suffering, the ones who were still cheating, the ones who were still occasionally smoking, they would look at the cold turkey quitters who were doing good and think, well, yeah, you were able to quit cold turkey because it's so easy for you. You can see how easy a time you're having. I'm having this really, really hard time. That's why I can't go cold turkey. I mean, I'd really be suffering miserably if I really tried to just totally stop smoking. They couldn't see what I think was obvious to me, and I believe it was obvious to the cold turkey quitters in the room, but it isn't obvious to people who are still under control of nicotine. If you want to stop smoking and you really want to do it the quickest way and the way that's going to cause you the least suffering, stop delivering nicotine. Stop it. When I was doing the clinics, the only way people really had of getting nicotine in them were tobacco products. It was cigarettes, cigars, pipes, but it was cigarettes. That's what these people were doing. Now there's a plethora of ways you can get nicotine in your system. You can get patches, you can get gums, you can get inhalers, you can get electronic cigarettes. Uh, I think there's a few others that I'm not even thinking of at the moment, but there's ways you can get nicotine in your system. They're all doing the same thing. They're keeping you from getting nicotine out of your system and ending withdrawal. The way to end it, the quickest, the easiest, the simplest, it's stop delivering nicotine, let it get out of your system, and then you just want to keep it out of your system. The withdrawal will end, and then you won't be ever having to deal with withdrawal again. Because all you need to do then to stay off smoking is to now stick to the commitment you hopefully made when you stopped, to just never take another puff.